All right. Looks like we are live. Welcome to the Lovecraft eZine Sunday Talk Show. See, today is February the 15th, 2015. Thank you, Pete. Chris Morey and company was supposed to be on the show today. As early as yesterday, he told me that he'd be here, but I haven't heard back from him today. But that's okay.
What's the matter with you, Wallach? God. Look at Pete.
Yeah, I was hoping the screen was froze, but that's just, you see, your mom told you your eyes will stick like that. It's true. So, but anyway, if they don't come on the show, what I'm referring to is Dreams from the Witch House, which is an upcoming all-female anthology. Let me get the wording here. Dreams from the Witch House, Female Voices of Lovecraftian Horror, illustrated by Daniel Serra, if I'm saying both of his names right, featuring authors Joyce Carol Oates, Caitlin Kiernan, Lois Gresh, and many others. It's on Indiegogo right now. I've actually got a link to it at the Lovecraft eZine website on the left side banner, and they're doing pretty good with their funding. They got 2 weeks left, and they're almost there.
They're at 93%.
Yeah.
With their initial funding goal. Now, what we want to do is, if anyone wants to contribute, I know these things are expensive, but if we can get them to $22,000, then all the interior artwork will be in color. And you've seen Daniel Sierra's covers for some of our recent favorite books. They're stunning. And one of the reasons that this book, kind of done in the same way, the World War Cthulhu, is such a gorgeous book is it's got all in color interior artwork. It's just gorgeous, you know. It's like, and it'll be a different artist, of course, for this book. But goodness me, wouldn't you love to have a book full of color illustrations? And then the second thing is, this is something I think Joe's been alluding to a long time. It's the time is coming, you know, where women authors are getting their due. He's editing an all-woman King in Yellow anthology, Casilda's Song, and then there was another Indiegogo from Innsmouth Free Press. She Walks in Shadow.
Garcia,
So this is going to be like sort of the third book along these lines. It's great.
Well, don't forget though, last year we had Women Destroy Horror and Women Destroy Science Fiction. You know, it's a great thing that
for those of you watching and going, what a sexist guy. No, those were the titles.
Yeah, no, those were the titles.
They're satirical titles.
Women Destroy Horror was actually edited by Ellen Datlow.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't meant destroy as, you know, it was a bad thing, but it's like they come out and, you know, they hit these things out of the ballpark.
It was ironic.
You know, it's a wonderful thing that we're seeing this type of book. It's also in a way sad that we continually have to go, hey, you know, there's a great talent pool out there, and a whole huge chunk of the talent is women. You know, women have been contributing to weird fiction since day one. You know, let's go back to Frankenstein. Let's look at C.L. Moore. Let's look at Lee Brackett. You know, I mean, we can just reel off Shirley Jackson. We can reel off names forever. It's great to see these books, and I'd like to see more. But it's also a shame that we have to say, oh, hey, the ladies do this too. Of course they do.
Yeah.
They're
Matt's got a good point about the
and interested as we are.
Matt's got a good point about the Dreams in the Witch House Indiegogo. Even though it's at 93%, you know, if that's something that interests you, which it should, go ahead and give anyway, because the more they reach that $25,000 goal, I believe it was, Matt, then you get those interior color illustrations. So, and lots of other stuff I think they have planned. So,
Yeah.
So yeah. So, when's Casilda's song coming out again?
Sometime this spring. I have most of the submissions. I have accepted a ton of really wonderful stuff. There are a couple of things, because I've been so ill, there's a couple of things I'm not finished with my edits to send back. But, you know, soon. Real soon. And Steve Santiago is doing our cover, which I'm real excited about. And that'll be coming from Chaosium. So,
Steve's real talented.
probably a couple months. You know, we're close. You know, life got in the way, so a couple of people, you know, took a little longer to get me their submissions, but that's okay. You know, when you're somebody like Molly Tanzer, you get extra time. You know, not picking on Molly, of course.
All right, so I guess Chris isn't going to make it, but that's the skinny on Dreams from the Witch House, female voices of Lovecraftian horror.
And I don't know if Sylvia Marino Garcia is her Indiegogo thing. That was fully funded. That's over with. Yes.
Yeah.
That's been quite a while, I believe. Yeah.
I think they've got interior artwork going on right now. I think they've got all their submissions. I think it's really a matter of formatting and artwork.
But there was another. That's another one that had some just amazing people on Table of Contents. So it's going to be interesting to see all three of these books hit this year. You know.
All right, so on to other topics. Rick had a great idea. Rick and me and Matt recently got Cthulhu Wars, the board game. And so Rick's got a great idea that if we can try in some way that the three of us are going to play Cthulhu Wars.
It was actually Matt.
I'm sorry, that was Matt's idea. It was some genius here's idea. I don't know whose idea it was, but anyway, I think that's a great idea. I'm not sure when we're going to do it. Rick's recovering from a broken collarbone, so it'll be a few weeks at least, but that's coming up. If I can...
Well, if you want to be the King in Yellow, I'll be Cthulhu then. One of us has to... If we're going to do this 3 players, one of us would have to be Cthulhu, just as the, you know...
Well, who's Carpenter going to be?
I was going to
Matt,
be Shub-Niggurath.
Yeah, Matt already said Shub-Niggurath.
See, so Sandy Peterson explained it like you can play really badly as Shub-Niggurath and be almost defeated and then respawn your whole army.
Oh.
It's the most defensive player from what I gathered from the videos.
Well, I want to read you something that Sandy wrote on BoardGameGeek.com in their forum. A couple of people were saying, why is this game so expensive? You know, why did you overproduce this game, which I don't feel it is overproduced. I think the figures are one of the things that makes it really cool, but I want to read what he wrote. That was really good. Okay, here's the honest-to-God truth about why the game was made so, quote, overproduced as it has now been infamously described. I thought this was going to be the last game that Sandy Peterson ever designed on his own. This is Sandy writing. I had had no income for about 2 years while I failed to get a small phone app company going. I decided to take a job working for the man, doing games decided upon by corporate suits, sequels, and knockoffs. I'm not whining. The man is whom I've worked for most of my life, and he's been good to me, so I was fine with this. I had gotten an excellent job offer with terrific benefits, a good salary, and even stock options. I was going to head to my new firm in August 2013. Yeah, right after I met Sandy, he said, I'm going out of the country to work at this company. But before I went back to the man, I wanted to do one last game, in caps. And if it was going to be my last game from the innermost depths of my soul, it was going to be on my favorite topic, using my favorite type of gameplay, and by golly, I was going to finally fulfill my boyhood dream of making a big plastic Cthulhu toy. My favorite toys as a lad were plastic dinosaurs, and I would have loved to have Cthulhu monsters as well. I wanted my last game to be a massive deluxe horror that was basically a love song to my favorite author, genre, and games all rolled into one. So it had to be 28mm figures and lots of them. It had to be striking, stellar art, creating a whole new style for Lovecraftian horror. No longer staid and underplayed, but active and wriggling. I really sweated blood on this one. Then he goes on to say he thought it was just going to be helping with income somewhat. Instead, it skyrocketed, and I had to phone the man and tell him that I had created myself a new job from scratch. Instead of being my last game ever, I founded a whole new company from it, and now I am kept busy designing more games. I will never regret the high price of Cthulhu Wars because of where it came from. If I had expected it to be the first in a series of projects, it might have been smaller scale, I admit, but on the other hand, it might not have had so much of my soul in it. I thought that was really good.
Yeah, that's the. You know, we a couple years ago we broke down and we brought all the deluxe editions of Monopoly and Risk and all that because just having the quality pieces, the quality work, is much more enjoyable, and it lasts longer. I know that this is going to be a game that I can pass down to my grandkids when the time comes because it's well made.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting. We'll try and play it online here, and keep holding those figures up to the camera and everything for all of you out there that you do not have this the game. I also said that I was going to add a little Lovecraftian news feature to this broadcast every Sunday. I don't want to monologue it, but I'll throw things in as we talk. But the first thing I want to go back over to Joe for a second and show him something that have him show the audience something that I'm about to put on the Lovecraft eZine store. King in Yellow by Joe Brors. That is incredible. Is it heavy, Joe?
Put it up on the screen, Mike.
He is. You just can't see it.
Oh, okay.
It's pretty damn
it's
solid.
up on screen for the audience. It just doesn't work that way for you. You have to click on it yourself.
Everything is in here. This thing really is gold. It's a deep tone of gold, but it doesn't show. Where the hell's my camera so I can get this better?
Is that 24 karat?
It sure looks like it.
It does look like it.
And it's amazing. Yeah, it's got some heft to it. Weighs a couple of pounds.
Is it just me, or is it not in focus for anybody else?
It's not in focus for me.
Go back a little bit.
You got to remember, I got a crappy camera.
Oh, that's fine. Go back towards you. Go away from the camera a little bit. Yeah, that's a little better. But I think we got the idea anyway.
Yeah, it's gorgeous.
Oh, it's gorgeous.
Well, Joe Brors and I schemed. Go ahead.
There's all kinds of subtle detail here he's got right. It's just hard for me to show it. If you go back to the original 1895 Chambers design, the drawing, it's all here. So, that sits right on my desktop, along with. And this isn't Joe. That wasn't Joe's.
We're going to be selling those soon, by the way. For everybody watching, we're going to be selling those soon.
This is Joe's other King in Yellow piece.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
This is incredible. It has to be seen. Now this thing is, 9 by 9, and it's an exact reproduction of the original cover. Wonderfully done. Perfectly done.
Joe, who was the artist?
Joe
The
Bauer.
original cover?
Joe Brewers.
No, for the original cover.
Oh, Chambers himself.
Yeah, see, that's what's
Chambers
incredible
himself.
about it.
Chambers himself. This was his rendering. It was what was to be the original cover of the first edition, King in Yellow, but the publisher rejected this image. So, and everybody who knows the Ace paperback from like 1970 or so, this is the image that was used on that cover, other than it was colorized and the Ace was colorized differently.
That's awesome looking.
But yeah, this Joe's been doing King in Yellow stuff for quite a while, and it's incredible. Just wonderful stuff.
Well, sometime this week I'll have that statue on the Lovecraft eZine store. So anybody that wants one can buy one. We haven't finalized the price yet, but we'll know in a couple of days. So.
And I'm sure once Mike puts it up on the website, they'll have much better photographs than I can get, because I got a crappy little camera in this laptop, so I apologize that it doesn't look anywhere near as stunning as what it really is. I mean, if you could see the detail that's in the face, just amazing. I love Joe's work.
He's really, really talented. I've got several other of his pieces that are at the store. So
since we couldn't see the face that well, was he wearing the pallid mask?
Yes, yeah, he has the piece down here. You have the eyes, and you have the piece that goes across here. With my camera and the lighting, it doesn't show up. Again, once Mike gets something to post, I'm sure you'll see all that kind of detail.
by the way, for those watching live this week, we're going to give away 2 copies of that. It'll be a while before you get them, but when it comes out, the Dreams from the Witch House book. So I'll do that random choosing thing at the end or close to close to the end of the show, however it works out. There's a new comic out called Nameless. Nameless #1 is it's by Grant Morrison, and here's the synopsis on Comixology. You can get a digital version or the print version, as usual for most comics these days. An astronomer kills his family, then himself, leaving a cryptic warning. A veiled lady hunts her victims through human nightmares. An occult hustler known only as Nameless is recruited by a consortium of billionaire futurists for a desperate mission. A terrifying inhuman experiment is about to begin. I just found out about this today. Nameless this is from, I don't know what this website is. I'll link to it later. Nameless #1, Lovecraftian horrors hiding on every page. Grant Morrison's next foray into the writer-owned side of comics is proving to be a very terrifying experience for me. Borrowing heavy from Lovecraftian subjects such as alternate dimensions, ancient nameless cults, and blood-hungry fishmen, this debut issue does a very good job of letting the reader in just enough to hook him for the long run, but keeps him in the dark just enough to have you reading each panel slowly in anticipation of the unknown that is about to come next. I won't read this whole article to you, but if you like graphic novels, which is what we adults call comics, and you like Lovecraft, then pick up Nameless #1. I'm looking forward to reading it later today. I got it on Comixology for my Kindle Fire, so it looks really good. So
I'll put that on my list.
it's only $2.99. Also, it's not very much. Compared to what
I can't buy comics anymore.
I can't buy very many of them. Yeah.
The problem I've had, and I've written about this before, is that I'll spend, let's say it's a 6-issue series, and that's $5. Well, that's $30.
Mm-hmm.
Then the trade paperback comes out with more art, so that's another $25. and then the hardcover signed limited edition comes out, and that's $50. Well, I'm just gonna, if it's worth, what I've discovered is if there's a series that's worthwhile, I'm gonna put it out as a trade paperback or a hardcover. I'll just wait for that.
Yeah, I agree. With the exception being, of course, the Doom that came from Gotham.
Yeah. I have no idea why that has not been released as trade paperback.
I've mentioned this before on the show, but if you're hearing me say this for the first time, Batman in a Lovecraftian setting. It's a 3-issue comic. Came out, I don't know, 15, 20 years ago, something like that, Pete. And they're on Amazon. You can buy used copies, but they're like $20 or $30 a piece now.
An issue.
Yeah, an issue.
Yeah.
Hey, don't get me wrong, it's worth it. But I was lucky enough to get them when they were cheap at $10 an issue.
Right.
A while back. So.
Well, that's just, it's not Lovecraftian, but I buy the Rocketeer, and I wait for all that to come out in paperback.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I do the same thing. The other thing too is they're actually cheap. It's more affordable that way.
Right.
It is.
You know, you're getting a trade paperback that collects, let's say, 10 issues, and you're paying like $15. You know, so.
Yeah, you got to be rich to be going to the comic book store every month and buying everything you're interested in as it comes out. You know, so I can't do it. But this Nameless #1 looks really, really good. Let me
Frankly,
post.
no. Here's the problem I have. It's like for this and for Lovecraft and Tesla, which I haven't got. It's like it's hard for me to get these issues. I end up having to buy them from an online store like Mile High Comics or something, and the shipping is prohibitively high. It's like for a $3 comic, they want $7 or $8 shipping.
Why don't you just read the digital version?
So I end up not getting them.
Well, you can buy them digitally, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I know, but I like the physical copy.
Well, I do too, but I'm just saving a ton of money this way.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, Kindles are nice, but they're not good with graphic novels. I don't enjoy them as much.
They're not good with. You shouldn't buy a graphic novel on Amazon. What you should do is, and I'm not trying to talk anyone into it by any means, if you're going to read a graphic novel or a comic on Kindle Fire, buy it at Comixology.com, because what they do is this kind of unique framing thing for each section on the page. You tap it, it zooms in just on the panel or the section of the panel where it should be, and then you tap it and it goes to the next section. It's actually laid out really nicely that way. So, but Amazon does not do that with its graphic novels. I mean, it does it, but not nearly as well. Let's put it that way. So, of course, in a perfect world, I'd rather just have all my comics print too. But anyway, Nameless #1 looks really good. I just wanted to point that out. So, okay. So what else we got going on?
I have something that's kind of an interesting discussion. This was on, I think, the H.P. Lovecraft Historical Society web Facebook page. Someone Someone asked if with the huge number of releases of books in the last few years, and also planned if the genre was, quote, played out.
Oh, I saw that thread, yeah.
And I thought that was kind of an interesting thought, because certainly I think if someone were to try and do a Trail of Cthulhu, let's do a Derleth pastiche sort of thing, that, yeah, most people would say that was pretty tired. But the whole concept, whether you even want to call it Lovecraftian or not, it's just a word, but of the cosmic horror, the other, the humans not being like anything significant in the universe, I think that has got endless possibilities.
Yeah, it does.
The other thing is, you could take an author, like some of the people in this chat room, and say, give me a pastiche, and what you get, it's really the talent of the author more than anything that matters.
Exactly right.
So if you're going to
Right.
read a piece of crud by an author, I will say like me, that's one thing. But you know, you give the same material to, I don't know, Joe, and he'll get you something completely different that's worth reading, even if it's like quote pastiche-ish.
Yeah.
Well, thanks.
Yeah.
I agree. Now, as far as an oversaturation point, yes, we can easily argue that we are beyond overly saturated with this material. Because after all, it's been going on since the first generation of disciples,
You could say the
of
same thing
Lovecraft's
about
primary
vampires and
disciples.
everything else.
But, as Matt said, if you pick a subject, and we'll just use the broad term Lovecraftian. Let's say we want to do ghouls. If you go to Caitlin Kiernan for a ghoul story, you're going to get something that's absolutely fantastic. You know, if you when you go to Molly Tanzer, when you go to Livia Llewellyn, when you go to Laird Barron, as Matt said, it all boils down to the talent and vision of the writer. You know, we see an awful lot of, okay, this is an interesting idea, and the writing's not bad, but, just because the writing is a couple of rungs up the ladder from pedestrian and it's a good idea, do you remember that story 6 months after you read it? Do you care? When you get a Man with the Black Horn from Ted Klein, there's a story that everybody not only reveres, but everybody still talks about. So, have we reached an oversaturation point? Indeed, we have. Is it played out? No. It's not in the right hands. It's not.
Well,
Right, and another concept I saw was that if you think about it, a lot of these releases are not to the general public per se. It's not like a paperback you see in the airport. It's small releases with specialty presses with the interested audience. So, in my view, it's like, are we saturated? No, I got plenty of shelf space left. Come on, guys.
All right, Pete and I want to jump in.
Yeah, Pete wanted to say. Go ahead, Pete.
Well, let's run it backwards. Since day one, for both Sherlock Holmes and Dracula, there have been, vampire stories and Sherlock Holmes pastiches running for what, 200-300 years now? And I'm exaggerating the time, but there's a lot of Sherlock Holmes stuff, and I would say 50-60% of it is just really bad. But there's some really good stuff out there, and some of the stuff that's coming out now is some of the best it's ever been.
Yep.
And Derelith is once again one of the big issues here, in that he wanted to write Holmes stuff, and he was told no, can't do it. And we came up with
Solar Ponds.
Solar Ponds instead. Yeah.
Which ironically, whatever you think of Derleth's Cthulhu story, Solar Ponds is great.
Yeah.
Yes, it is. As bad as his Cthulhu, his Lovecraftian stuff is, that's how good his Solar Ponds is.
Right.
Yeah.
And then, to look, I'm having fun. All right, I'm having a good time. Laird Barron, Caitlin Kiernan, Simon Stranzis, these are our masters. These are guys who are having a really fabulous run redirecting weird fiction. I'm just happy to write a fun story right now.
Yeah, well, I just want to say from my point of view, it's like an embarrassment of riches. When do I have time to read everybody?
Well, yeah.
I think Matt has had his voice the same. It's like I've only touched a little. I finally managed to catch up pretty much with Laird Barron, but I've got a lot of Caitlin Kiernan I haven't read. I've got a lot of Charlie Strauss I haven't read.
You know, I
And
think
I'm
when
going to
people
write
bring
some
that up,
stuff of my own too. You know.
I think when some people bring that up, they're kind of complaining. You know, wow, Lovecraft used to be our thing, just a few of us, you know, and now it's not cool anymore because more people like it, which I disagree with. I mean, nobody's going around complaining that we better stop writing about vampires. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of crap out there, but there's still some good vampire stories out there. I'm not big on vampires,
Yeah,
but
well,
that's one example.
anytime you take a small community that's extremely passionate about their thing, and then their thing becomes popular and gets out into the mainstream and whatnot, you're going to get that kind of reaction because it's no longer theirs. It used to be that little cool thing that only you and I were into, and now everybody's into it and everybody plays with it. You
Right.
know. All right, let's take Yaddis. I could say, here's 2 Yaddis books, and I could type out a list of writers that contributed to Yaddis #1, and I could type out another list of writers that contributed to Yaddis #2. Depending on those table of contents, one of those books could be as pedestrian as hell and would be a great sleeping aid, and the other one could be mind-bending and have one of the most wonderful table of contents you've ever seen. All comes down to the talent and vision of the writers and the editor as well. I mean, there's got to be somebody to steer the ship. Let's face it, it's Cthulhu everything now. Cthulhu's in Ghostbusters cartoons, and he's probably been on The Simpsons, and everybody knows Cthulhu. Lovecraft is seeping out into mainstream culture. This is going to happen. Everybody's going to go, hey, this Cthulhu stuff sells. I want to be part of this. And then when we take into account the internet, ebooks, and I'm not picking on ebooks. I'm picking on one type of ebook here, which is anybody and their brother can sit down and type out a story, and all of a sudden it's on Amazon as a Kindle thing. Me, Cthulhu, and the red Chevrolet pickup truck, whatever the hell the
Yeah,
title.
and that's different. As I think it was Rick was saying a few minutes ago, that's different than, it might have been Matt, the theme of cosmic horror itself.
Yeah.
That's pretty hard to play out because
Yeah.
there's so many different things you can do with it. So as it played out, and I'm glad you brought up this topic, Matt. No, it's not played out, but there's a lot of bad stuff out there. There's a lot of good stuff out there. Now, speaking of Laird Barron, go ahead, Matt. Sorry.
Here's another thing. It's like Joe just mentioned this electronic publishing, which used to be like through Publish America and Lulu. I gotta say, if the more people who participate, there's this guy named Daniel Reiner. He wrote this book called Where Goeth Nyarlathotep. And that was back when I had actually read everything that was out there, and I can't keep up now. It turned out to be superb. Never heard of the guy, just wrote it, put it out there, no advertising. The more people who participate, you're going to uncover somebody. Someone's going to step forward with something that I really enjoy.
I'm not saying I'm not saying that we don't get absolute gems in this glut of trash. I'm just saying there is a glut of trash, and you've got to dig through that haystack to come up with that diamond.
I do think there are some publishers out there in our little subgenre that are trying to put out, and editors that are trying to put out as much as possible in as short of a time as possible. And You know, I think they should focus on quality over quantity. These are not bad stories, but they're not awesome stories either. They're not great.
No,
I'm
but
not going to name any names, but
entertainment has always ran to whatever is the hottest thing at the moment. You know, if all of a sudden you have a hit doctor show on network television, oh, doctors are the next thing, so all the shows are doctors. Oh,
right.
Now we're going over to cops. Oh, now all the shows are cops. You know, it's the same in music. Here's a new trend in music, then everybody and their brother's doing it. Here's a new kind of painting. Here's a new kind of this art or that art, or, you know, whatever. Vampires get popular, and look what happens to vampire fiction.
There is some more. I've got a little bit more news here. Going down the news roster, and thanks to Mark Tellen, watching live right now, and he commented on the message board and reminded me. Laird Barron, one of his stories is
30.
Yeah, and he turned into a movie. So, I'm trying to think if I've read this story.
Which one is that?
30.
His story 30. The film rights have been purchased.
Where was that story?
I've got his blog up here talking about it from yesterday. Laird says, the main inspiration for 30 was an article I read about a CSI team searching for bodies at the Manson Ranch. The vision of a team of investigators camped out on a potential old killing ground haunted me. A reviewer quipped something along the lines of my story being The Shining in the Woods, but after the Manson investigation, films such as Carpenter's The Thing and Phase 4, Basis Phase 4, were bigger influences, not so much as plot devices, but as points of reference for the mood of the piece and my own while writing it. He goes on to talk about spending a year in Alaska. That's another influence. And the guy who's adapting it wrote Europa Report, which I talked about a long time ago on this show, and it's on my list of Lovecraftian movies at the site. Really good film with some Lovecraftian tones in it. That's all I want to say. But so I'm glad. I mean, that person will do a good job, I'm sure, with Laird's story.
Congratulations to Laird, and it's a great thing for weird fiction readers and film lovers as well.
Where is 30? Rick's probably going to look for it right now. That's why you got
it. Isn't 30 in occultation?
I don't see. I got my Laird Barron stories scattered around. I don't know. You guys find out. Let me know, because I want to go.
I'll get it soon.
All right. Well, I'm sure we'll find out more.
30 as a number or 30 as the word? I'm not getting any
number.
Yeah. Well, it's got a dash before it and a dash after it, like 30-30. So.
Okay, I got it.
Okay.
It's in quotations. I know I've read it. I just not remember.
That's what I thought it was in the second one.
Which is funny because Caitlin Kiernan has a story called 32. No, never mind. Strike that. Why is that coming up? That's weird.
And it is funny because I turned 30 like 15 years ago. So it's a really weird coincidence.
Yeah, I thought it was in the second one. I thought you were going to say you turned 30 like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, right.
No, his wife turned 30 about 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, she did.
Well, you know, Mikey's in that weird fiction stuff, so robbing the cradle's like robbing the tomb.
Yeah. Well, as a reminder, Laird's going to be on the show a month from now, March the 22nd. So I'm sure we can find out more about the upcoming film then. What was I going to say? Can't remember what it was.
Okay.
Yeah,
I got
ahead.
one other topic.
Mm-hmm.
The women who are responsible for Littlest Lovecraft,
Yeah.
They had the Dunwich Horror. They had the Call of Cthulhu. Their latest Kickstarter is up, The Shadow over Innsmouth. So if you like Lovecraft picture books, you may want to go over there.
Boy, they do some good work, too. And they're really nice ladies. Very nice people. I'm friends with Tro, and she's one of the creators. So, yeah, I mean, it doesn't sound like something that would interest maybe most Lovecraftians, but you get one of those on your shelf and you want to get the next one because they're so really awesome.
I have not the one they did, but the two that were done. I think Ken Hite did them.
Yeah, Ken Hite.
The Shadow over Innsmouth. Oh,
Cthulhu
where the
101 is one of them.
Where the Deep Ones Are, and then the At the Mountains of Madness version. I read those to the girls. They love them.
How about Where Is My Shoggoth?
That's actually, out of all of them, that's the best.
Is it?
It's got gorgeous art.
I have it somewhere here.
Well, I can see where the Deep Ones are right there, Rick.
Yeah, I got Where the Deep Ones Are. I have somewhere.
Actually, speaking of that, Kenneth Hite has done 3 of the mini Mythos series, is what he calls it. The Antarctic Express and Clifford, the Big Red God.
Right.
He got approved by Atomic Overmind Press to do a 4th book.
Oh, okay.
So there's going to be a 4th book in that series.
See, folks, it's just amazing the Lovecraftian news you find out about watching this show. I find out about
Here it is, by the way. Here is Where Is My Shoggoth.
Oh, awesome.
And if you want to if you go back over Lehman Kessler's archives, he recently read that to his daughter on Ask Lovecraft.
Well, so Google, Matt, what's Tro's latest book? The one that's the fundraiser?
I posted a link to the Kickstarter.
Okay,
It's
good.
their 3rd book. Their first book was The Call of Cthulhu, and that's available in general release. The Kickstarter completed for, I think it was the Dunwich Horror, and I just don't know if the copy has yet been made available on Amazon yet. They're working their way up to it, and now they're getting funding for their 3rd book, which is The Shadow over Innsmouth.
Right, so
They're
Google...
really charming illustrations.
Yeah. Tro does the writing, and her friend does the drawing, if I have that right.
Oh, is it her friend? I thought it was her sister.
She calls her her sister.
Oh, I see. I don't
I
know.
judge my brother.
I don't know anything.
But anyway, yeah, Google Shadow of Innsmouth Kickstarter, and that'll probably bring it up. And I think Matt said he linked to it on the message board. There is a movie called Spring that I am trying to figure out if it's out, if it's on the indie movie circuit, or what, and where I can watch this thing. I may have to just contact the creators and ask them, bite the bullet and do that. They'd probably send me. But it's called Spring. There is on YouTube, I believe that there is a trailer for it, and it's basically about this kid who, on a whim, I think he lost his job or something, so on a whim he scrapes together some money and goes to Italy, and he meets this girl, starts falling in love with her, and there's something really, really strange about her, and there's some kind of, people keep saying that, without really saying what it is, which I'm glad they're not, that there's a Lovecraftian vibe to this movie. And the movie, as much as you can tell from the trailer, looks really, really well done, and it's getting really good reviews. So if anybody knows more about a movie called Spring, that I would love to know more about it. You know, post it on the message board or email me, whatever. But if I don't hear anything, then I'll contact the creators, you know, via their Facebook page, and I'll probably be able to get a hold of them that way. So that, I mean, there's a lot of really, oversaturated, but man, there's some really good Lovecraftian stuff going on. You know, Lovecraftian films. We talked about Laird's film. Lovecraftian video games. There's a new video game it was somewhat new, called The Sunless Sea, which is really, really good. Game with a Lovecraftian vibe to it. PC game. It's available on Steam. So there's a lot of good stuff out there right now. Pete, when does the third book in your trilogy come out?
What are you talking to my wife?
No, I'm a mind reader.
No, we got email from your favorite reviewer. He wants notes so he can start saving up for it.
Wow.
Yeah, actually, that is what made me think of it. Pete has a fan, and yeah, my cat's going crazy. Pete has a fan that just loves his books and is trying to tell the world he wants it. Like, what an asshole.
Actually,
now, Pete,
let's not beat him. Everyone's entitled to their own opinion. It's
yes,
fine.
but you don't have to be a dick about it. You don't have to like every book you review, but don't be a jerk. Gee.
No, but to answer your question, Mike.
Yes.
It's about a third of the way done. Mandy's going over the first third of it right now, and it's going to be a long book. If it works out, it might top out at 180,000 words.
Oh.
It's going to be a big book.
Why didn't you just say it's an encyclopedia?
Yeah.
It's not an encyclopedia, but it's going to be a big book.
This is the feminist part of the trilogy, right?
Doorstopper.
This is Reanimatrix. This is the story of Robert Peasley, who becomes a cop in Arkham, and he is the go-to guy for solving all the weird crimes that the regular cops don't want to deal with.
See, this just sounds right up my alley, Pete. I can't wait for it.
And
so it's Laura meets the film Laura meets Lovecraft.
Yeah, he gets a call one night. And he ends up on the docks, and they're pulling a body out of the river, and it's a dead girl. And he recognized her as Megan Halsey, Alan Halsey's daughter. And he spends the next year investigating her death and falling in love with her. Even though she's dead.
Did you get this idea from the Reanimator films?
I was actually, Pete, I was just thinking that the only way he's going to have really a great relationship with her is he gets in touch with Dr. Herbert West.
Wait a minute.
Stuart you must not forget Stuart Hartwell here. More reliable person.
Yeah, Hartwell's a little bit more reliable than West.
Is there going to be a sex scene where they consummate their love in the morgue?
Yes.
Wasn't the original title of this book 50 Shades of Reanimators?
The title of the book is Reanimatrix. It has some erotica in it.
So
Applause.
you're telling me that in the book things heat up?
Yeah.
We had to bring that one.
Oh, God.
But it looks to me like you're radically reworking some stuff from Stuart Gordon.
Well, no. Well,
in that Dr. Halsey's daughter was a character on this. There's nothing wrong with that.
Right. No, what I've decided to do is just as everybody has decided that for their most people have decided that for Reanimator sequels, Herbert West's partner was Daniel Kane, and they just borrowed the name from from Reanimator, Stuart Gordon's Reanimator. So in that tradition, I have borrowed the name Megan Halsey as the name of Alan Halsey's daughter, but it has really no relationship besides the name. And I'm talking with my hands again, so that's the.
But it's always, it's just like I did a Dracula story once, which was very in tune with Stoker, but I did a lot of wild variations on things from Hammer.
Yeah.
This isn't a lot, but worked in the way, they weren't direct copies. They were just, vampires getting revived and things like that through black magic rituals. Stuff you saw in the Hammer movies, but not in the original Dracula.
And actually, Megan Halsey appears in The Weird Company, along with Hannah Peasley. Megan Halsey, Hannah Peasley, and Asnith Waite all appear as students at the Hall School in Weird Company. So I have to remember to keep that in the book. It's damning to have to actually be consistent and worry about continuity.
Yeah, that's why DC rebooted.
Exactly.
Well, what's when you were a reader, you were always going, "Come on, Doyle, can't you figure out which limb?"
Was it his shoulder or his leg? Damn it!
But then when you start to write these yourself, you're going, "Oh, I keep anytime I write a new book in my own series, I got to reread the previous ones to make sure it was consistent."
Right. Well, and then there's the famous thing where Nero Wolfe's address changes 4 times through the series. So, yeah.
Well, we look forward to reading 50 Shades of Reanimatrix.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, actually, I'm looking forward to the film now, because that means we'll have a hard R theatrical release, and then when we get the box set, the director's cut is going to be unrated.
Unrated.
Right.
Right. I have to warn you, Pete. I will not go see this film in the theater. I'm going to wait for the unrated DVD cut.
Well, that's perfect.
I hope that doesn't mess up your sales.
You don't want to go into one of those little XXX places to see Reanimatrix when it comes out.
Yeah,
Well, the original Reanimator was an X.
No, was it? Well, I saw it was NC-17.
It was?
NC-17.
That was the second.
Did you see that?
That's what they call it
in the theater.
Name.
Did you see Reanimators in the Reanimator?
Yeah, he stole the car, as we all know.
Oh, right. I forgot. I'm sorry.
Yeah. I'm 17, and I once stole a car.
I have
Reanimator.
And I have never seen Reanimator.
Well, it was on YouTube, and Mike sent us the link, so I finally watched it.
I haven't ever seen it.
Well, Joe,
I got called on the carpet the other day by somebody because Reanimator's not on my list of Lovecraftian movies on the site.
Well, can I ask a question? Why is Repenetrator not on your list of Lovecraftian movies?
Well, you can ask. So, if you're in the mood for Reanimator, it's an enjoyable movie, but it's not scary or anything. It doesn't go on my list, Sorry.
It's more of this, I can't believe they did this in the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, The Last Lovecraft is on my list.
Oh, and they're making a sequel to that.
Yeah.
Be careful. They may be making a sequel. Their Kickstarter, where they wanted to raise $75,000, is barely making a nickel.
Okay, these
porn actresses nowadays get more money than they used to.
Oh.
Well, they got a union and everything.
Well, and they should.
Joe, I love you.
Everyone needs insurance.
Yeah.
We're waiting for the Joe Pova movie.
Yeah. You wait a long time, I think.
All right, so maybe I'll try and class this up a little bit. I will try. I'm not saying I will succeed.
Now?
So I love astronomy. I think that's one of the reasons why I love cosmic horror. But I stumbled across an article online the other day, and I've linked to it a few minutes ago on the message board at Vox.com. This is the most detailed map yet of our place in the universe. And at the risk of geeking out here, I really do want to talk about this, and I think it interests you guys too, and the people watching. There's already several comments about it. But one of the subtitles is Laniakea, if I'm saying that right, our local supercluster. And it's basically talking about some scientists did a remap of our position in the universe. And there's a really cool video at the bottom of the page, too, that really spells it out. And if you look at this first picture on the page, you see this Laniakea, and it's basically a supercluster of galaxies. Every dot you see in there is a galaxy. You know, billions and billions of them, as Sagan would say. And our supercluster is Laniakea, and the Milky Way is on the edge of the supercluster. And of course, most armchair astronomers probably know that our solar system is on the edge of the Milky Way. And it really, out of all the articles I've ever read, you know, from being a kid, being interested in this stuff, this really does more than anything cementing in my mind just how huge the universe is and just how small we are in comparison to it. And of course, this big supercluster is just one tiny, tiny part of the whole universe. I don't know that I can really do this justice talking about it. I mean, I encourage people to go there and read the article and look at the video and the pictures. But it's just amazing. Each one of those points of light is an individual galaxy. Each galaxy contains millions, billions, or even trillions of stars. Oh, and all this is just a little local corner of an even broader universe. And I think they did a really beautiful job of mapping it. It's just really cool looking. So I wanted to... It kind of goes hand in hand with cosmic horror. You know, I think people that are interested in cosmic horror, interested in Lovecraftian fiction and topics, you know, the deep topics like deep time and the really getting across the size of the universe is very interesting to us. So.
And in other space news, I read something a couple of days ago, or maybe it was yesterday, that NASA has a plan to send a submarine to Titan, I believe.
Oh, are you kidding me? That would be awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, here we have an aquatic world out in space, and you know, much like Rover, we're now going to send a little robotic submarine. How the hell cool is that?
Aquatic? I thought the ocean was made of methane.
Well, whatever it's made out of, we're going to send a submarine.
What is Titan? Is Titan a moon of Jupiter?
It's a moon of Saturn, I believe.
Yeah, Saturn.
Saturn or Jupiter, one or the other. I can't remember right now.
Saturn.
It's what? It's liquid,
You know,
so we're going to send something to swim around there.
What now?
I see if that's going to be a robotic submarine. You know, with what I know about actual space travel, it's an impossibility at this point to send people. I mean, even going to Mars is a fool's errand.
Yeah,
because of there are these radioactive ions that go through space. They're iron atoms, okay, ionized iron atoms, and they're basically absorbed by the atmosphere, and they blow right through anything. You can't shield against them. It's not like Star Trek, you know.
Right.
You'd have to come up with some really completely ridiculous technology that is not available, because otherwise, basically what happens is on your trip to Mars, both your brain and your DNA are being turned into cheese.
Yeah.
And you either end up with like premature aging and dementia, or you end up with like multiple malignancies.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, and if you're not excited about a robot to Mars or to Titan or anything, but picture this, you know, picture as technology advances, not just these black and white images or black and white video, but the video getting better and better and better until it's almost like you're there, you know, the camera. I mean, that's awesome. That's awesome to think of.
Matt, back when I was at university up at Florida Tech, we had a strong program with NASA, and one of the things we were working on was, you know, for the space station and for long journeys, what would we grow in space to feed these guys? And one of the things we came up with was tilapia, because you can breed tilapia, very small ones, and you get bigger ones. But what it turns out is that water, like 6 feet of water really does a good job as shielding against that hard radiation.
Really?
So you might end up having safe rooms surrounded by, essentially aquariums. And it slows down those particles. But, the whole concept of putting giant tanks of water in space is just out there. But it works.
Well, we're going to have to come up with some pretty innovative ideas for space travel. It's not going to be like, okay, here's a nice-looking tin can and strap a rocket to it.
Yeah, and I got to go, guys. I'll talk to you later.
Okay, have a good night with the wife.
Good night.
Have a great evening, Pete.
Rebecca and I posted a couple different articles on the message board about what your news item, Joe. Here are NASA's plans to send a submarine to Titan. And Titan's really interesting because of that liquid ocean. It is methane, yeah. But I was reading an article a couple weeks ago in an astronomy magazine about how a lot of planets with life potentially that are out there may be really moons circling gas giants in in the Goldilocks zone of a star. Mm-hmm. Not necessarily a planet, there may be moons. So I didn't know about that, Joe. I really appreciate you bringing that up. I love stuff like that.
I just saw it and thought, wow, what a really cool thing. That'll be interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, as a kid in the early 70s, I thought by now we would. I was very excited about being an adult because I thought people are going to be in space and everything, and we really dropped the ball on it. I hope we pick it back up.
Oh yeah, well I mean when I was growing up, and Rick, it's got to be the same for you. We read all of this science fiction. Along comes 2001. Look at the audio video phones. Just thought all this neat stuff. We're going to be out there. We're going to know this and discover that. And
Well, do you remember the World's Fair from I think it was '64? General Motors exhibit.
I got in trouble at the World's Fair, and actually, it's probably one of the most important things in my life as far as things that transformed me.
How's that?
But there was the Unisphere,
mm-hmm.
and it was night, and we were walking around, and there was music playing, and I just froze and stood there while all the kids and the teachers kept walking, and there's Joe, just frozen listening to this music. And it took them quite a while, well, me and them, to discover that we'd got music was embedded in my brain for quite some time until a few years later when I discovered what it was. But it was jazz, and at that point I had never come across jazz, and I became a passionate seeker trying to find out what this particular composition was, which happened to be a Dave Brubeck song. But yeah, that amazing stuff at the World's Fair.
You thought you would have all these wonderful cities and deserts and other planets and incredible cars. So we are getting there in some way. Cars, we got cars that can park themselves. So maybe we're not far from that.
Oh, and I think we would have all
really. There are some things that happen that nobody really, maybe one or two people, but not very many really anticipated the internet. For example, I don't think.
Yeah,
and I remember. I was just going to say I remember watching Star Trek: Deep Space Nine, and they're all reading, holo novels or whatever they call them.
Mm-hmm.
They were equivalent of Kindles.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah,
Yeah, electronic books, if you had told me when I was 10, 12, 15, I would have laughed. Of course, all these decades of sitting in a chair, holding a book, reading a book, it's still what I want to do. I want that physical sensation. I turn that page, that book smells like something. The words, I don't know.
Yeah, I was into. I read when I was a kid. There was this series called Danny Dunn. He's basically this kid scientist, and this professor, grown-up scientist, lives with him and his mom. They're his housekeeper basically. And they, at one point, these were written in the '60s. At one point, they designed this automatic house, and everything in the house was automated except for the books, because the professor and Danny Dunn said that nothing takes the place of holding a book in your hand. Now, I do love my Kindle, but I love my print books too. But I always remember that. That's interesting.
The other thing is here's this life. We had this guy, Joey Pulver, and he would go to the library, and you discovered things in the library that you're not going to discover using a Kindle.
I've regularly gone to the library, yeah.
And when you went to the bookstore, it's like there's all kinds of books I own, mountains, because of the cover. I walked by and the cover said, "Hey, I'm over here. Pick me up." You can see a lot more in a bookstore than you can even with Amazon. Amazon's a great tool, but flipping through pages and it's like, here's 13 other books that are similar to this, and you got to click through. But when you're standing in a bookstore, you might find 50 books on a waterfall rack, and that and that and that scream at you.
I think, like everything else in life, the key is balance. I think it's wrong to say, God damn it, only bookstores, only print books, or only whatever. But by the same token, to say, well, Kindle's where it's at, electronics where it's at, no, that's wrong too. Look, they both have their pluses and they both have their minuses.
As somebody who always carted books everywhere I went, because you never know where you're stuck.
Yeah. Kindle comes in handy for that.
Sure, you can have a whole library in your pocket.
Yeah.
There are times, let's face it, I'm a New Yorker, so all this snow and stuff I'm hearing about, I've been through a lot of winters where you're not leaving the house today and you're not leaving the house tomorrow. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. And you hear about such and such book. Oh, well, with a Kindle, you could have it in a second.
Yeah.
And there are times because we're voracious readers. Hell, we're junkies. We don't want it. We need it. You got to have it right that minute. I have literally over the years, it's like, oh my God, and went out and jumped in the car and gone to the bookstore in search of, or ran over.
Me too.
Yeah.
Now I gotta say, I got a bit of an advantage that my to-be-read stack is so high that I can afford to wait. Because
no.
I feel the same way sometimes too when I'm looking at books. But the thing is that with a Kindle, all right, it's great. You can look up things. You can do searches, and sometimes you might say, "Oh, which Lad Barron story that was in," and whatever.
Right.
I have all of this stuff on Kindle. But the thing is, they come on this flipping through a book, looking for something, and you find something else you weren't expecting.
Yeah.
That's true.
I remember flipping through some Bran McMorn collection by Robert E. Howard, and then just suddenly screaming, "Oh my God!" He mentioned Riye, Worms of the Earth, which I knew nothing about Lovecraft when I first read that story.
Yeah. But the other thing too is
Yeah, and
having stacks of books that you want to read and you haven't read yet. I'm sorry, there's been a lot of times in my life where I heard about something and I had to have that one now, that one next. It didn't matter that there were already
yeah,
5 things, and I knew I was going to read 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
I was going to
All
say
right,
that too. Yeah,
look,
yeah,
all right, this is brand new. This is not Lovecraftian, but this is called Barely Composed. It's a brand new collection of poetry by Alice Fulton, who's one of my very favorite poets. She hasn't had a collection in over a decade. I don't know, 6 weeks ago was it? Maybe? Whenever. I was on Amazon, I was scrolling through it looking up something, and all of a sudden that was there. Had to have it.
yeah.
Not
I
want
know
it,
exactly what you
whatever.
mean.
Junky, and I need it as soon as, I mean, it hadn't been released yet, but had it been, I would have, done whatever I had to do, move heaven and earth, to get my paws on it.
Yeah, mostly what
this
I
is not
did
a
growing up.
passive thing to us. These things happen, so there
Mostly
are
what I did
times.
growing up was read, but go ahead, Joe. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's one of the advantages with Kindle. The other thing too is, I've over the years I've heard somebody say, "Oh, this record sounds just like Buffalo Springfield," or "This writer is just like Ted Klein." Go there, look up the book, Kindle. You get to read the first page, second page, third page. There's things that have made it to my yes, I'm gonna buy that list, and then there's things that's like, no, that writer does not sound like write like Ted Klein. And they didn't make it to the list.
Oh well. By the way, and Joe, why this what you just said made me think of this. But everyone, I think it's only going to be about 2 weeks until 2 to 3 weeks at most. We're really getting there until Joe's upcoming King and Yellow Tales collection will be out. It's going to be introduced by Rick. There's going to be an afterword by Pete Rollick. And what this is a whole hell of a lot of Joe Pulver King and Yellow Tales that are out there in a plethora of different anthologies that it would be harder than hell to collect them all. And this will do it for you. And we're getting there. Nice blurb by Larry Barron and Willem Pugmire and a couple other people at the front of the book, and we're almost there. So what you just said just now about the preview made me think about that. So.
It collects
the artist
everything.
Pardon me?
Steve
The
Santiago.
artist?
Steve Santiago. I'm really glad to see Steve getting this work because he started doing all these free illustrations for me as did a bunch of other artists for Lovecraft eZine stories, and I can see how that a lot of people are using him for covers and stuff now, and he deserves it. He's really talented. So
yeah, well, he's doing this, the collected Lovecraft. He's doing Casilda's song for me, and he's also doing the Protocols of Ugliness, which is one of my collections that's coming. The cover of that. He's great, and what a wonderful guy.
Yeah, he is.
There's some of these people behind the scenes, Steve, Leslie, that does so much work for Mike. Not only are these people mega talented, but they're just such wonderful people. They're an absolute gift to our community.
Yeah, Ken. With all on that subject, I would be remiss if I didn't mention Kenneth Kane, who does a lot of the behind-the-scenes layouts for me, and Kindle and print, and he's a pretty good author too. So.
Oh, I'm not trying to leave anybody out.
No, I know. You just made me think of him. So.
A lot of times there are people in the background that they don't get the praise that they deserve. I mean, you see what's in front of the curtain. You don't see all the people who are in back of it. And without their work, everything else is a lot less.
Yeah, it's like you and I were talking in private the other day. That story about the CEO that I told you. The secret, one of the secrets to being successful is to surround yourself with people that are more talented than you are. I've always felt that way.
Yeah, it elevates your game. They make you look good. They make you look like it's easy. You do it and it's easy. They just elevate the game on every level.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't have an ego. I don't need to feel like I'm the most talented guy in the room. I want to surround myself with people that have a lot of talent, and they make me look good. People like Leslie and Steve and Ken. They're those kind of people, and all the artists and readers that I work with. So. Anyway, I'm very excited about King and Yellow, Joe Clover King and Yellow Tails. I think you guys are going to love this.
And it does collect everything of mine, except it collects everything of mine that has been published anywhere and everywhere. The exception is there are a few things that are very new or within the last 6-8 months. And because of contractual issues, I can't do them yet.
There will be a volume 2, folks.
There'll be a volume 2 like in a year. But you sell somebody this for anthology, blah blah blah, and you can't reprint it for a year. And while I was digging up the contents for this King and Yellow book, I did come across one of the first King and Yellow poems I ever wrote that I had completely forgotten about, because I have a terrible habit of I will open a file to be sure I'm done with it or it's something I'm working on, and an idea will hit me, so I'll go right to the end and I'll just start writing. And occasionally I find things that are done that are in other files. So I actually uncovered a poem. I didn't even know what it was when I first started reading it. It's like, the hell is this? What are you gonna? How are you gonna put this in that? Oh, wait a minute, this is separate work. Oh, okay. Well, so there's one unreleased thing in there.
I forgotten. I was going to ask you that because Willem asked me that too.
I have a question. This goes into style because Willem loves to go and revise. He goes and he revises, and it's like you think you have your complete Willem Pugmire collection, and then he rewrites the whole story.
Yeah.
And you got to start all over.
Yeah, we're not doing that.
When you were compiling these stories, did you have to exercise editorial restraint, that you didn't go back and fiddle here and there, or did you go back and fix small things, continuity things? How'd you do that?
Okay. There's an album by the Mothers of Invention called We're Only in It for the Money. And I've loved it for over 40 years. And when it came out on CD, Frank Zappa didn't like the drums. So he excised the drum tracks and had them re-recorded. Now, the original drummer is 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And the new drummer is like a washing machine. He's really talented, but he's like a broken washing machine. I hated it.
Mm-hmm.
I want what I was in love with. So there's part of me that looks and it's like, wow, this is a 20-year-old Joe Pulver tale, and this Joe Pulver can write hopefully better than that Joe Pulver. And I think, oh, wow, that's terrible. I could do a hell of a lot better. But they are what they are. That's who I was at that particular moment in time. And if I'm going to give you the collected King and Yellow material, you deserve to get it all. The way it came out. Not updated, not revised. I mean, I love Willem, but I don't want to revise. If I find an error, You know, if I said it was 1965, but it was actually 1968, and I found that out over the years, I'll change that number because it's a technical error. It's the same as a grammatical error. But those are the only revisions, and there are next to none in there.
Yeah, when I published the Sea of Ash, Scott, all he did was he went in there and Scott Thomas, he said, there's some punctuation things I want to fix, and he did that, and that was it. He didn't change anything else.
Yeah, because let's say somebody out there, you know, Paul Schultz, really loves this one Joe Pulver story, King in Yellow story. And he goes, oh wow, the collected King in Yellow, I can have it all. Oh yeah, and it's got the Tattered King in there. I really love that story. That's my favorite Joe Pulver King in Yellow story. I don't want to revise it because then he might feel cheated. He wants the one he likes with all the other stuff.
You going to say something, Rick?
Yeah, I'm saying, like, when I had to reprint, I've had a lot of stories published, Tales of the Shadow Men, and then they end up in books.
Right.
I just changed some very minor things, and if there was a little continuity blick, and that, you know, I said, I wrote the stories out of order, and I said in this tale, they met in 1879, and, well, when I wrote that meeting, it ended up being in 1875. I'll fix that up. So this,
yeah, but
it doesn't affect the story. Well, I love Willem, but the problem is I get a radically different story, and different, you know, guys die who didn't die. And
yeah. The only thing you're ever going to find that's revised by me is in Blood Will Have Its Season. There's a story called A Night of Blood and Moon and Holstenwall, which is a prequel to The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari. And originally that was written as a very long postmodern hybrid poem. It was splashed all across the pages. And ST read it and dismissed it. And as we were working on that first collection, at one point he goes, you know, maybe I'm wrong about that Caligari story. What would you think about turning it into a proper narrative? You know, getting rid of all the weird fonts and getting rid of the weird layout and make it read like a regular story. So I went into the file, I copied it, I went through, I turned it into a story. And because of poetics, you know, when you were going from this to this, you didn't need a transition because of design. Well, there's a couple places in the story that I had to insert a transition. So in one of the new collections coming out, I've decided to reprint the original version of this. So I wouldn't call it a revision. Actually, what exists is the revision. But
that's understandable, though, why you did that.
Yeah, but no, it's like, you know, if a writer wants to do that, okay, but hopefully all writers 2 years, 4 years, 6 years, 10 years later have gotten better. And when we go back, yeah, we could do it differently. We could hopefully have done it better. But it is what it is. We fall in love with at a particular time, and I don't want it altered. You know, but that's just me. Other writers are entitled to do what they want to do. But when I buy a collected or best of, I would like the original material. Fix it if it's broke, but if it isn't broke, leave it alone. And by broke, I mean, you know, you found the typo.
You know, well, the one problem with sometimes revising something is there may be more than you should revise, because I remember when Bob Price came out with Mysteries of the Worm, he made some very minor revisions to some of Bloch's stories, I think based on Bloch's original manuscript that I think Bob Bloch wanted it. And in The Faceless God, they changed the name of the protagonist, which is fine. The story doesn't really change. But that character is referred back to, and those exact events are referred back to in the opener of The Way, and there was the original name of the character. You just introduce the continuity click. You got to change. You got to say, oh,
Yeah.
I better change opener of The Way as well.
Yeah. You know,
Well, Necronomicon's coming up in August. I am kind of pleased and flattered and excited that they asked me, they told me that I'm the very first person they asked to write a fiction piece for the, what do they call their handout that they do? If they call it anything.
Program.
Pardon me?
The program.
Yeah, I guess. Just the program.
Does it have a name?
I don't know if it does or not. I was thinking that it did, but I could be wrong. But they asked me to. They said I was the first one they asked. I'm doing a short fiction piece for the program. Other people are doing fiction pieces. They said they were going to ask and nonfiction pieces. So I'm really flattered about that. That's all I'll say about it. I think the viewers of this program would be especially excited to read it. I'll get into those reasons later. And I've got Nightmare Magazine. I've got a nonfiction piece coming up on their H's for Horror column. I'm not sure which issue, but I think sometime in the next couple of months. So August, we're all going to Necronomicon. That's going to be a lot of fun. So, but I've been wanting to announce that.
Are they accepting registrations now?
I believe so. I believe they're.
Yes. All of the gold keys and silver keys sold out on the first day.
Oh wow, that's good.
They're gonna have no more than I think 1,600 tickets they're gonna sell. That's still an increase from the previous time from a couple hundred.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
the venues are so small they can't really take anymore.
Well, there's also there's an intimacy, there's a family feel, and they want to retain that. I mean, let's face it, everybody who went there, that's part of what made it so wonderful is, just the crowd. The people who were there. Everybody was there to, for the same reason. Everybody wanted to have a good time. Everybody was pleased to see this person and that person and whatever. It's if it gets too big, you don't get the opportunity to meet and mingle with people that you want to meet and mingle with. It's a good thing. I mean, sure, could be neat if you have 20,000 people or whatever, but then it just turns into a zoo too.
Yeah.
Comic
conventions like that and everything, and it seems like it would be a madhouse. Niels Niels and everybody helping him did a wonderful job.
Yeah, they did an amazing job. They treated us wonderfully.
Yeah, I'd like to have Niels on the show sometime soon. If you're a friend of Niels, by the way, his mom passed away recently, and so I'm sure he's going through a hard time right now. Within the last week or so.
Yeah.
So, he's got all this planning to do, and this happens too. So.
Yeah, well, I'm sure the other people, on the committee and staff have all stepped up to help him.
Kim on the message board says, "Buy your tickets now, seriously, and book your hotel right now. They are running out fast." That's a really good point. You don't want to run out of
stuff.
I'm booking mine. I've taken care of where I'm going to be probably rooming with Pete and
yeah, Pete's got something cooking for you guys.
yes, he's got some little thing off on the side, so that's already taken care of. But I got to book. That's why I wanted to know. I'm booking right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, because there was somewhere there was a post.
There's not hotel space left, you know.
I actually think it might have been on the Facebook page for the convention where they said that rooms were going at light speed and were getting low. Because let's face it, I mean, last time there were a couple of weddings going on. I know at one point, because at one point there was a problem with one of the elevators. The people upstairs at this one big wedding, they had taken chairs and barred the elevator doors, so the one elevator didn't work. They were using that for their own personal elevator.
I think that was that Pulver wedding, wasn't it?
No, this was something else. Because I went downstairs to the desk and I said, you know, blah, 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 and you got a convention going on here too, and it might be nice if all your elevators work. And the one young guy there went, we're completely unaware of that. That'll be fixed right away. So.
All right, well, guys, thanks for being here, and thanks to everybody for watching. If you would like Dreams from the Witch House, female dreams of Lovecraftian horror, if I remember that title correctly, send me an email right now with the title of, in the subject, please put Dreams from the Witch House, and whatever you want to say in the body of the email. If you like the show, we always like hearing that. And I will use random.org sometime in the next few minutes to pick the winners. It will be a while before you get your book because they're still in the fundraiser for it, but we will make sure you stay on the list and you do get it. So my email address is Lovecraft eZine, Lovecraft eZine @gmail.com. And again, if in the subject put Dreams from the Witch House, and we'll pick 2 winners. So. Well, thanks, guys, for being here, Joe. I know it's really late where you're at. Thanks for being here. And
appreciate it.
Talk to you guys next week. Thanks for watching, everybody.
Have a good night.